Hey, it's Nicole.
And Marina.
And we're popping in to say that we're launching a product. The Capsule Collab is our curated box with themed collections. Check us out at thecapsulecollab.com and on Instagram at thecapsulecollab. Welcome back to the Gen 20 podcast. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Marina.
And today we're talking about hustle culture with Antoinette Minor, also known as the Young Professionalist. Antoinette Minor is a millennial career blogger, social media strategist, and speaker and CEO of TYP Social Media Co.
Antoinette, we're so excited to have you on today. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started as an entrepreneur?
Sure. So I actually call myself the accidental entrepreneur because I didn't intend on quitting my job. I thought that I was just going to quit for a summer, and then 3 years later, I'm still an entrepreneur. I literally started doing social media management just to help pay the bills. You know, student loans is a real thing. And then one day I looked up, and half of my income was also from managing social media accounts for clients. So then, whole long story about the company that I used to work for, but essentially I was in a position where I just got a little frustrated and it was time to make a decision to quit. And that's what I did. And I used that time to just focus on TYP. And here we are now, 3 years later, a whole accident.
I love it. It's a very happy accident.
Yes.
So it sounds like you were working full-time and working on your social media on the side. So you're no stranger to side hustles and the hustle culture. And we talk about that a lot here on Gen 20 because it's, you know, side hustles are such a great way to supplement your income and to stretch creative ideas, and also just to kind of build out your resume or portfolio or experience list. But we get to a point where that hustle culture just kind of takes over. Did you feel like when you were working on everything full time and on the side, you hit that mark of like too much hustle?
Oh, yes, 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 yes. And mine came in the form of my health. My hustle mentality impacted my health in a way that I really could never have imagined. So, about a year ago, I was diagnosed with a condition called pseudotumor cerebri. And just to make a long story short, it essentially just means that my brain thinks there's a tumor. And it's because my spinal fluid pressure is really high. I walked into the eye doctor one day thinking, oh, I just need glasses because I sit in front of a computer all day, just to find out that my optic nerves are swollen because there's just too much going on in my brain. Wow. And why did this happen? Because I sat on a couch to side hustle, start a business, didn't get up and take care of my physical health. And I gained a whole bunch of weight, which led to this condition, this disorder. And now the only way out of it is to really just focus on my health and lose weight. So me and hustle have like a love-hate relationship for that reason, because it's almost like a necessary evil. Like I have to do it because I'm still in my baby stages of my business. Yet I'm still working to find that balance, because honestly, I think while I don't want to be sick, I also do think it's a learning lesson for me to really put things into perspective and really get myself together. Because what's the point of having a business if you can't like enjoy the fruits of your labor? So that's like me and hustle. You know, we go back and forth on if we like it or not.
Yeah.
That's how we feel too.
Yeah, same over here. Before COVID started, I was working full time and working with Gen 20 part-time and had another freelance thing I was trying to launch. So I had like 2 part-time jobs and a full-time job. And I had just moved to LA, and I love LA. I had made a bunch of friends, and by like the time I hit a year mark, I realized my mental health was just diving. I was so unhappy. I wasn't leaving the house because every minute I wasn't at my office job, I was thinking about the work I should be doing, working, or trying to sleep but thinking about working, and it was awful. And so being laid off from my full-time job because of COVID was kind of a blessing in disguise, because all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is what sleep feels like. Oh, this is what this feels like, because I was even with all the side hustling, I was still struggling to make ends meet too, and it was just stress city. So we very much love a side hustle, but hate the burnout energy that hustle culture brings us, because it's, Nicole and I were talking about this earlier, and I know she'll want to jump in, but basically somehow, especially in America, this hustle culture is somehow a source of pride of like, oh, I can work 100 hours a week, I can do all of this, and we're kind of punished if we want to rest or take a different pace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you said you're like still in the baby stages of your business, because I think that's the time when so many people are encouraged to like really hustle and work so hard. Because I mean, even like looking at it from a number standpoint, it's like you have to be making a certain amount of revenue to be able to like outsource things, for it to be sustainable. And like at like some point there's only so much you can do by yourself. And it's so challenging to like constantly have to like decide between like, oh, am I gonna have to pay someone else to do this and like help me, and is this a smart investment and all these things, or do I just not sleep for 3 days? Like, these are the choices a lot of people
Yeah.
have to make. And I mean, a lot of that is like pursuing like financial freedom and like health freedom, kind of like you're talking about. And like it's so hard to make these choices, especially when we're told that like, you have to hustle, and like, your dreams don't work unless you do, and blah blah blah. And it's like, I mean, well, like, you don't work unless you rest. That's how I feel
Right.
about it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I'm starting to realize more now than ever, like the idea of working smarter, not harder. I've always been a strategic person. Like strategic is my thing. Like I was born strategic. If you can be born to be anything.
Yeah.
However, like like you said, there's those layers that make you feel like you have to do more than what you're doing. And even right now, I've kind of labeled myself hashtag recession survive or hashtag survive recession. So I'm doing as much as I can. And I was up until 4 in the morning trying to make sure that things were done because, like you said, Nicole, outsourcing, is that something I can even do or can I afford that right now? And how do I save as much money as I can? Because the pandemic we thought was going to be like a 2 week to a month thing. And now we're like in October almost. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like trying to project and make those decisions. And I'm like, okay, half the time I have this battle of sleep when the recession is over or pace myself. So it's really hard, and I think that can really wear on your mental health, like you said, Marina. It's been a struggle. It really has.
Yeah, I'm working on a novel and working with Gen 20 and have some other like side projects I'm excited about, and I had to change my mindset from when I worked a 9 to 5, I would be as productive as I could and then go home and try to like knock things out. And now I'm privileged enough that I'm living at home with my mom. Shout out. Thanks, Mom. So I
Yes.
don't have to worry about rent right now, but I really want to accomplish these tasks and accomplish these goals of mine so that when it is time for me to leave the nest again, I can support myself. And a lot of it was having to change my mindset of the like productivity equals worth into just like productive will look different. And so
Mm.
I used to sit down at 9 a.m. and make myself write until 5 p.m. and I was miserable. And so now I have changed my schedule to like build in me time in the morning, and then like I've had to like literally schedule in breaks and like time to start my day later so that I can rest, because it's when you, especially when you're growing your own business, you want so much for it to succeed that you will die before you give up, which won't help us, because if you're not here to take care of your business, then your business won't grow.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think like it's also so hard like for me, because like when I first started working in like media and digital publishing and stuff like that, literally cannot remember who it was, but someone said to me that like if I wasn't responding to my emails ASAP and like being available all the time, that I wasn't like going to succeed in this industry. And I was like, I reject that notion. No. Like, you, just because you email me doesn't mean I owe you a response. It doesn't mean that you have access to my time or my energy. And like I don't think that that's like a healthy thing to perpetuate. Like, I think it's okay if we don't get back to each other within like 1 or 2 days. Like, I feel like that should be more standard. Like, obviously they're like, respond to urgent things, I feel, but like in general, if I don't respond to you for 1 day, like, it's not a big deal. If you don't respond to me for 1 day, it's not a big deal. And I just like, I hate that whole idea where it's like you have to constantly be on social media, be on your email, be on your website, be working. Like, I reject that personally. I don't like it.
No, I agree 100%. And in fact, I had very clear boundary setting conversations with my clients in the beginning of 2020 about respecting time, but not only respecting time, but giving grace,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much going on that I don't know if any of you recognize, but to just go simply get coffee takes like 45 minutes some days. It's not like, and I live across the street from my favorite place in the world, Dunkin' Donuts, but it takes like 45 minutes to get my coffee because you can't go inside, or you have to get in the drive through, and then you come home and you have to wash your hands, and like there's
Mm-hmm.
a process to everything, or even just to go to the PO box. So I had a client one time that was like, you didn't respond to me in like 24 hours or something. Mind you, they sent me the email at midnight, so they were expecting me to reply back that same day technically. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
you have to give people grace. And so I find that sometimes we we're working at some people are working at 12 a.m. so they expect others to be working at 12 a.m. and that's just not simply the fact. So I try to do my best to say, all right, if I am working at 12 a.m., let me just make sure this email goes out at 8 a.m. on the
Yeah.
timer, so that
Mm-hmm.
way
Scheduled
someone,
send.
yeah, so that way some people don't feel like they have to respond back to me at 12 a.m. or that it's acceptable, because it's really not acceptable to be sending people emails at 3 in the morning. You know what I mean? So like
Mm-hmm.
we also have to be kind to ourselves and give each other grace, because we all contribute to the whole hustle mentality, or the overwork mentality.
Yeah, that's a great point to just the only way we get out of this like toxic hustle culture mentality is if we set boundaries and we expect others to accept them and set them for themselves. I was watching, I think it was on Instagram, this woman giving, career tips for younger women, and it was, you can set boundaries on when you answer your inbox, you can set boundaries for when you answer your work phone, and obviously if you're with an employer, you have to communicate that and say, okay, is it like, are you expecting me to respond within the end of the workday or within 24 hours? But I used to do the same thing when I first started freelancing. I was on my phone constantly because I just wanted to respond within 10 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
now it's like, well, if I happen to be on my email when you email me and I can respond, I'll respond right away. But otherwise, I will get back to you within like a 24-hour period, because we can't be beholden to our technology. We can't be attached to our phones. It's really unhealthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen people who have like auto response, but yeah, like auto responders. That's like, hi, like, thank you for reaching out. Like, I check my email at like this time and this time. If this is urgent, like, I'll get back to you today. If not, like, thank you for respecting my time. And like, here's some links to find more resources that might answer your question. So I don't even think she like responds to people who like questions can be answered by those resources,
Oh, that's
just
smart.
because it's like the sheer volume of things that I mean even I get, and like it's too much. Like, I can't. And when people follow up 45 times, it's like it's just exhausting. Like, it's like,
Hmm.
hey, did you get my email? Hey, just bouncing this to the top. Like, I understand you want to respond, but like, if I haven't responded to you in like a week, I'm probably not going to. Like, please just respect that, please.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I also saw, I, oh no, I got an email from someone in the probably in the last couple of weeks, and she had like, I guess it was part of her signature, but in it was, if you're receiving this email and unable to respond immediately, please know that I'm not expecting you, and I like expecting you to respond right away. I respect your time, and like, this is a really hard era. So it was more eloquent, but it was basically saying, like, as the sender of this email, I'm acknowledging that there's a lot going on and you might not be able to respond right away, and that's okay. And I thought, it's like Antoinette was saying, giving grace. It was such a neat way to kind of combat that hustle culture, especially with the pandemic, of like, hey, acknowledging that everything's on fire, literally and figuratively.
That's
So
so true.
and that's all we can do, because we're, exactly, earlier you said, we're in this together. We only succeed if we succeed together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's I think I got an email with something like that recently as well, where it was like, I understand if you don't respond to me or something like that at the bottom. And I was like, oh, that's nice. Thanks. I can just delete this without worry.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. But yeah, well, one thing I started, like, I have a template that I respond to people with when they follow up with me a bunch. I'm just like, I'll reach out if I need more information. And I feel like that's like, then it's like letting them know that if I'm interested, I will follow up with them and they don't have to keep coming back to my inbox. And it's like, because it's kind of like, you know, a little bit of like wasting everyone's time when people are just like continuously following up. But I'm sitting here feeling like, please stop emailing me. But I don't want to tell you to stop emailing me, but please stop. So I don't know. That's just what I started saying. And I feel like most people are pretty respectful of that. Like, I don't get a bunch of emails from them again, which I feel like is nice for me.
So we keep talking about how we can help one another and how we can set boundaries. How do we help each other prioritize rest? Because that's something that I feel like we aren't doing for ourselves. And I imagine if we're not doing it for ourselves, we're probably not helping others do it. So, Antoinette, what would you say to a client or to a friend who needs a little reminder?
That's a great question because, to be honest with you, when some people say to me, you need to take a rest or you need a day off, um, I can be defensive in my responses because, um, depending on, this is going to sound so petty and so maybe even slightly shady, but I'm gonna just say it because we're being transparent and I don't cut anything. So but depending on who's saying it and what they're dealing with, I feel like if you're not an entrepreneur or you're not side hustling or you're not in my position, you don't understand. And I believe it was Myleik Teal who said this, like, sometimes my form of self care has to be to work because I have to feed myself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
taking care of myself is feeding myself. However, when we do need to rest, I think that if you're someone who is truly concerned about me, what you probably could do best is, I love when people do this, send me a cash app for a cup of coffee. Because then that reminds me to get out the house and at least go get coffee. And it's something that I can do. I had a client recently reach out to me, and unfortunately, I couldn't take advantage of it because I'm high risk for that C word. So I couldn't take advantage of it. But she called my local spa and booked me an appointment and just said, I understand that you're under a lot, but you pick the time and you decide when you want to go and it's paid.
Wow.
So I think when you can do something like that as opposed to just a blanket statement of you need to take a break or take a day off, like, that doesn't help me.
Yeah.
I need
Mm-hmm.
actual action items. And sometimes, and like I said, this is gonna sound real petty, but if it's coming from somebody who gets a PTO day, I can't receive it
Yeah.
because you don't
Because
understand.
you're on different paths, you're on different boats.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, some people need, like, we're all different. So some people need more rest, more like small breaks more often, or more days off in a row. Like, we all work in a different rhythm and a different flow. And I think that's what I've been learning more and more as a freelancer and entrepreneur. Nicole has talked about this too, with just like, working when it suits you, working when you have the energy and can crank out work. And then if you're not feeling it, for me at least, I know, okay, if I'm banging my head against my desk because I can't get these edits done, rather than force myself for another 2 hours to try to edit something that should take 20 minutes, I'm going to just take a step back, read for 20 minutes, or close my eyes, or I don't know, light a candle and listen to some Britney Spears, and then get back to my work. Because sometimes, like one of my first jobs, my mentor taught me the phrase desk break. Like sometimes you just need a 5-minute desk break where you just like stop thinking for a second and then start over. And I think that's when we recognize that we all work differently and all need different things. That's how we can start helping each other prioritize rest. And the same thing you were sharing with giving helpful help instead of being like that helpful friend who says, "Oh, you look tired." It's like, no, don't tell me I look tired.
Don't tell
I
me
know
I
how
look
I look.
tired.
Thank you.
I know. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Exactly. Even like my boyfriend, he's great with like, so I have my water today, but he will just walk in the room and be like, "Give me your water bottle," and fill it up, and just make like that makes a difference. Like those
Wow.
little things make a difference. Because I don't get up to go get a coffee most often if I'm like deep into it, but like
Hmm.
little things like that help instead of just you need to take a day off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As we were talking about this, I was kind of thinking another thing that I think kind of helps prioritize rest is like charging enough for what you need. Because I guess I don't know how long ago it was now, probably like 2 years ago. I decided that I wasn't even going to like entertain the idea of working on things below like certain rates. Like it's just not worth it to me at all. So I just say no. And like I've walked away from like so many potential partnerships because they won't negotiate with me or pay me what I like need to be paid to run my life and my business and pay the people that I work with. And it's just it like leaves more room in my life for one for me to rest and two to work with people who actually pay me what I'm worth, you know?
Yes. Yes. A
Yeah.
thousand times yes.
That's such a good point. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize anytime you're having an issue in your business, most likely it's because you don't charge enough. Like,
Hmm.
you need to charge more than what you're charging. And what you just said, I felt that in my spirit just now.
Yeah.
And like, I even decided, like, during this time, and Nicole knows, like, I play on Instagram all day. Like, that is my thing. Me and the dog are on Instagram all day, but I
Mhm.
also give a lot of free stuff on Instagram, like free tips and I've been kind of backing away from that because I felt like I'm not if I can't get paid for it right now, it's just not going to work for me. Maybe later on, and even
Mhm.
with clients who need a little bit more help because they're suffering right now, there's some of them that I can, but for the most part, I just decided like I can only do like one passion project right now, or else I'm
Hmm.
gonna run myself to the ground because there's not enough time for me to do what I need to do. And what's the point of hustling myself to the ground to work for $0?
Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, it's like there's different like streams of your business, I guess, where if you were providing these tips and that was like leading people to sign up for your services, you know, if they were like lead magnets essentially, like that would be one thing, but it's really not worth it for you to put like your resources, like your time, money, energy into something that's not paying you back
Hmm. Hmm.
in any way.
Yep.
Like it's just, yeah, you just have to like really look at how your business is structured because like I feel like most people's businesses are structured like differently the way they look at them. And it's just I don't know, like I kind of feel the same way. Like there's just certain things that, you know, like it would be nice if I could do that, but I don't have the time or the energy and that's fine with me, you know?
Yeah. Makes sense. And you're right, because I'm structured as a B2B. I'm business to business. So Instagram kind of doesn't make sense in my flow. I don't do B2C very much. So right now it wouldn't be worth it to stick my hands in the boat and try to make fetch happen when like I don't have time to.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that goes back to working, I think that concept of like working smarter, not harder with the hustle. Like you have to, I think in setting boundaries, we also need to take a step back and reevaluate what we're doing and how we're working pretty often, because it's easy to get into a rhythm that is maybe just not in sync with what you actually want to be doing. And if you are spending all this time on Instagram, but it's not converting business or helping your business grow, then you're just making it harder for yourself. It's like when you try to take all the groceries on one trip and the bags are cutting into your hand, and by the time you get to your door, the eggs are broken and the milk is spilling out. It's like, you don't want that. Don't do that, guys.
Right.
Take 2 trips. It's going to be okay. You need the steps.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just so important to like when in your hustle, like no one's hustle looks the same, and hustle doesn't mean you need to work until 3 a.m. Like it means if you have 2 hours, like make the most of those 2 hours and work as smart as you can. And honestly, like if there's things you're not interested in, and if people are like, oh, you should be doing this or that or whatever, like a long time ago, like people would ask me to do speaking opportunities, and I still get asked every now and then, but I say no because one, I don't want to do that, and two, I don't want to travel for work. It just doesn't appeal to me really. Like for me, travel is like fun. It's my rest. And if I was traveling for work, I think I would hate it and resent it. And like for me, that's like a boundary in my business. And even though there are people like, why don't you do this? Why don't you take these opportunities? Like I've been asked to speak by colleges and things like that, and I just say no. I don't know. And I feel like I can't even feel bad about it because like there are other people who would love those opportunities, and me saying no also opens it up for them to take them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like you have to respect your boundaries in your hustle and make sure that rest is part of your hustle.
Well, Nicole, that's a great point. And I'm so thrilled we could talk about this, because everyone needs to, especially now more than ever, like reassess their hustle. Antoinette, thank you so much for everything you shared today. And like, I want people to be able to find you. Where can people find you if they want to say hi on Instagram or check out your services?
Sure. So you can check me out on Instagram at Antoinette K Minor. And if you want to go online on my website, my blog is at AntoinetteKminor.com. I can't guarantee that there's any fresh blogs, but there's some good content to read if you want to read it. But if you're interested in TYP Social Media Co. and what we do, it's typsocialmediaco.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for coming on. And this has been another episode of a Gen 20 podcast. We would love for you to rate and review. And if you have episode ideas or want to say hi, email us. You can find our contact in the show notes below. Bye.